Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic today. I like this one. Let's do it. What event divided your life into before and after? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have two events, really, but I'll just mention the big one. In my junior year of college, when I was 20 to 21, I developed very unusual symptoms of insomnia, intense muscle soreness, slow movement, and a shaking right hand. After months of seeing different specialists, testing different medications to see if they helped, and finally a lumbar puncture, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. This fundamentally changed my life moving forward. I finished college and went to grad school immediately afterwards, but the fallout of the emotions and intense feelings of isolation caused me to leave. I later worked as a research tech for 4 years and finished my PhD last year after 5.5 years of doing grad school again. I achieved that goal. It's been almost 13 years now, and I can't say that any day since I started showing symptoms has been a good one compared to before. I have to deliberately move my feet and hands so as to not drag them, trip, or drop or spill something. I've gotten very good at it, but it's exhausting. Everything is day to day. It's also psychologically isolating since almost nobody can truly understand or relate, while it's also ended relationships when I told them about it. But I try to keep positive and look forward to something better coming in life. Getting hit by a car. Woke up in the hospital a month later with casts on my legs, many fractures, and a damaged brain. Spent most of a year in a brain injury rehab hospital. Fortunately, recovered well and returned to my life. Though it was a bit different. That was almost 18 years ago. So far, so good. The unexpected death of my daughter-in-law in January. She was just 40 years old. I'd gone to bed sick that night and had turned off my ringer and alerts, so I missed the call from my son at the hospital. He had to walk home in the dark alone after she died in front of him. I'll never forgive myself for not being there for him or for her when she was in the hospital. Before bariatric surgery, I was almost 400 pounds and in constant pain from my spinal arthritis. Couldn't walk more than a few feet before I started hurting. After bariatric surgery and some physical therapy, I'm now 170-ish, and I'm still in constant pain from my spinal arthritis, but it's significantly less than before and takes a lot longer to build up to intolerable levels. I have a full-time job again, and I go hiking now. Right. Life turned upside down 5 years ago. A sudden health challenge almost took my life. Had me in the ICU for 3 weeks, in the hospital for 2 months, and out of work for almost a year. 6 weeks after returning to work, COVID hit. My family was among the first to have it in my area. Luckily, we came through okay, but his wife had it pretty bad. As life was returning to normal a year later, my kids' high school was the site of a mass shooting. 4 of their friends killed that day. I often question if my near-death experience 5 years ago really resulted in my death, and I'm living in some alternate reality. Life is precious. Live each day you have to the fullest. My son developing a terminal disease that we had no idea about. He had just turned 3, but the last year and a half has been a ride we never knew we would be on. Up until almost 2, he developed normally and was just the happiest little boy. In early 2021, he was diagnosed with a rare terminal genetic disease called Crab disease after losing all of his abilities like walking, crawling, and even sitting up on his own in a matter of weeks out of nowhere. We ended up at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh to try to get him a stem cell transplant to prolong his life. They told us that without it, he would pass away by the end of the year, but if he got it, he may never be able to move or possibly even breathe on his own. That was the most stressful 24 hours of my life. He's gotten the transplant, can still somewhat move his arms and legs, and has the greatest smile you'll ever see. And he knows he is loved so much. We tried to get him in a gene therapy clinical trial, but he had an antibody that excluded him. Now we're just hoping for a miracle to happen. My husband's murder. I went from being a career-driven mother of 3 with a mostly stay-at-home husband to a single mother of 3 taking care of everything. Lots of things changed in my life, some obvious, some not. I'm a completely different person, living a completely different life now. Suicide attempt. I had a number of them in their late teens to early 20s. One came close enough that I lost consciousness and went into respiratory arrest. Paramedics saved me. After that, initially I was angry and more lost than ever. Slowly I began to work on me. Left a poisonous relationship, left college, which was a major source of stress and hurt, and pursued a career that I was passionate about. Spent time fixing the things about me I found ugly or toxic, and reworked my morals and ethics. Slowly improved, and over many years, I became someone I am now extremely proud of. Have a partner that I adore, a career I love, and an overall positive outlook on life and my future. And that all stemmed from a point where I nearly lost everything. Sometimes your worst moments give you the most room to grow. Side note, I'm a paramedic now. Irony is fun. Living what I thought was a great existence. Happily settled, steady job, good friends, savings, decent cars, wonderful son, and another on the way. A week away from getting married, all the families are happy. Found out my partner had been cheating on me for years with multiple women. His job as a police officer allowed ample opportunity for badge bangers and for believable overtime. Single mom life. Moved over 1,000 kilometers away to go back to my parents. Living on welfare, no savings, a car issue, pet issue, health issue away from total disaster. No sleep, not many friends, no job. Raised a newborn on my own. Sorry and scary how life can totally upend in a morning. My best friend's suicide. We were in college and we shared an apartment together. One day I came home from class and he was dead in his room. I had to deal with the police, paramedics, medical examiner, notify his family and our mutual friends, move out of the apartment and clean out all of his stuff, and find a new place to live. All of that fell on me. I had help, of course, but that's a lot for a grieving 21-year-old guy in school full-time and working part-time. That was the switch that flipped in my head to trigger the full-blown alcoholism and addictive tendencies that were definitely there but hadn't reared their ugly head yet. Almost 15 years later, and I'm still struggling with that particular demon. My wife and I suffered a miscarriage at 22 weeks. We birthed our deceased child and did the entire labor routine in the hospital. It was impossibly difficult with the details I wouldn't wish anybody to ever experience. We gave our child the respect it deserved and asked the hospital to not tell us the sex. Months later, our OBGYN gave us the documentation regarding the tests performed on our child to allow us to understand why behind the miscarriage. The first sentence read, "The deceased is unquestionably male," and ruined me. I've always wanted a boy to share my life experiences with. I'm now a proud father of 2 girls, but will always remember my dead son. I'll never be the same and can't help but wonder daily what my life would have been like if I never knew since then. I feel like everyone around me is birthing sons. I look at every ungrateful father with his son in public and think how envious I am. I'm a proud father of 2 beautiful and smart girls. Please don't get me wrong. I'm grateful and proud, but I'll never forget my son. It's not easy, and, everybody falls victim to, at times, the grass always being greener on the other side, but you have 2 beautiful young girls that I'm sure are proud of you. And just let's all be grateful for what we have. I'm sorry you went through that. Senior year of high school. Nobody cares about what happened to me, but I will be brief and say it dramatically scarred me. I've not been the same man since. I've not forgiven the perpetrators, and I will definitely say that is the before and after time of my life between being happy and being miserable. My parents are wealthy boomers. I had just had my first son, was working long hours at a car dealership, and my wife was working as well. My parents never gave me anything. We had incurred some credit card debt, about $3,000. That was destroying me. I hated owing money. I asked my dad for some help, dropping the well for them, and he coldly said no and basically said, figure it out. Over a couple of years, the debt increased because we were trying to survive. I took a job across the country, pulled my family out of everything, and we're thriving, all without their help. They always quip that they never get to see their grandkids. Well, sorry about it. I have some thoughts. Breakdown caused by OCD in 2021 that left me actively planning my end. Almost went through with it, but my parents surprised me with a puppy, and that puppy saved my life. In a much better, stable place now, with that puppy still by my side, but I'll never be the same ever again. No one really tells you that you might survive the attempt or near attempt, but something in you still dies, and that part of you is just carried with you for the rest of your time, like a scar on your heart or brain or whatever. I know this is going to sound edgy, but when I stopped caring so much. When I was younger, I was screamed at by my mother over every little thing. I became terrified of making mistakes or people hating me, so I became a huge pushover, desperate for people to like me. I thought I had friends, but in middle school they started relentlessly bullying me for things I couldn't control due to being neurodivergent, talking about my special interests, getting too loud or excited, etc. I stayed for them for so long thinking things would go back to the way that it was, but they never did. It was awful because these people were essentially my lifeline. But after a couple of years, I let go. I stopped trying to care so much about every little thing and tried to take life one day at a time. Sure, I still have pretty bad anxiety, and I get pretty lonely sometimes, but now I know it will get better. My leukemia. Got it in 2021 out of nowhere. No blood or bone issue before. Healthy-ish 27-year-old. Boom. Took it all in my stride and was in remission. Got sepsis. Got my gallbladder removed. Got out of the isolation ward after 10 months. Relapsed 3 months later. Got in line for a bone marrow transplant in 23. Got that done and survived. Got back on the road to normal. Had to leave my job. Have been searching for a new one since with no luck. But I have my health. I just got to go on my first foreign holiday since 2019 and have been able to plan well into the future for once in 2 or 3 years. It majorly puts things I took for granted into perspective, like being able to just go, I think I'll go for a walk outside. On the spur of the moment, I wasn't allowed out of the isolation room, and that was for 10 months. Coming off of a night shift after 7 years of study in my mid-30s to a real daytime job, I felt like I just woke up from a really long dream, that I missed years of things both important and mundane. The births of my children, Christmases, the loss of family, the changing of governments and societal norms, the most popular movie and sitcom, the latest meme. That was before. I opened my eyes and have only felt real since then. I'd say my breakup I went through during COVID. My ex of 5 years got on a flight and ghosted our 5-year relationship, saying she was going to visit her parents for 4 days, but she actually booked a one-way ticket and I never saw her again. I even had to pack all of her things and clothes and put them in a storage unit. Prior to this, I was a bartender making $20,000 a year, engaged to someone who clearly didn't love me, and I still lived in my hometown. Her leaving me kicked me into gear. I taught myself to code, I stopped smoking and drinking, I started going to the gym, I got braces, like a total 180 glow up. Now I own my own tech company, and I'm way hotter, lol. Richer, hotter, and happier. Without her leaving me, I probably would have stayed a drunk in a miserable marriage in a small city I was scared to leave. Moving away from my hometown and going to university, I used to truly believe that the worst in people, as the kids I grew up in were really incredible, cliquey, and invested in maintaining social conformity. It was an unspoken rule that some kids were pariahs because they were weird, and if you were friendly with them, you'd become a pariah too. There wasn't outward bullying or physical violence, just a sea of cold shoulders. I didn't really have any friends other than the other kids I met playing video games with online who weren't aware that I was a pariah. I'm a pretty proud person, but I can definitely say that it interrupted my social development as a child. It was really weird because many kids would also passionately espouse why it was important to be kind to each other and even cry during anti-bullying school assemblies, but hypocritically go right back to enforcing pariahship the moment morality wasn't explicitly a topic of discussion. They were all preach and no practice. Everyone was so image-focused that I developed a strict anti-aesthetic perspective on life. Clothes and my hair were purely functional, because I believed that anyone who did care about image must be shallow, self-absorbed, and lack self-awareness. It wasn't until I went to university that I realized that my high school was very much not normal. I feel bad because I didn't trust people, so I'm not sure that I came off as a bit of a dick. It was honestly confusing to me at first that people might learn something about you, like the music you like, and wouldn't see it as a reason to dislike you if they didn't know the artist or like the genre of music. I also realized that I wasn't nearly as weird as I thought, and let myself begin to care about my appearance and feel good about how I looked. Why was my high school like that? I can't say for certain, but my theory is that it was because it was a wealthy suburb in Connecticut where most everyone's parents got rich working in health insurance. Their parents made a living off of appearing presentable, but doing some pretty heinous shit. Denying life-saving insurance claims is a pretty topical example. This combination of immoral behavior but living a cozy lifestyle meant they taught this kind of hypocrisy to their children. I don't know anyone from Connecticut anymore, and I'm curious if this kind of experience sounds familiar to anyone else. Yeah, it's called high school.